Yay!
Welcome to the More Phenomenal Podcast. We talk all things Power Rangers. I'm your host, Doug, joined with my co-hosts, Mac and Caitlin. But we have a fourth today. We got Steven today. What's going on, Steven?
Hey, how's it going? Not much. Just being more phenomenal over here. With
Yeah. You're in the right place.
I'm like the sixth ranger, but I'm like the fourth one instead.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Those are the best episodes when we can have the Sixth Ranger here.
All right, we're like Jungle Fury then, or something.
Oh yeah. A smaller season.
Yeah. So Steven is the writer and, correct me if I'm wrong, creator of Power Rangers Nightmare on Elm Street?
Correct. Yes.
Nice.
Writer and creator. I'm trying to get more people involved in the writing side of it, but we can talk about that later. But yes, I am the one who came up with the crossover idea.
Nice.
Very cool.
What made you come up with the crossover and decide to put pen to paper or digital paper in this case?
Great question. So I had actually started off with comics before with I did a Kickstarter with some friends where we made a comic called Occult Generation, which was basically like a comic that was made like a film. And I didn't create it or anything, but I was like the story editor, and I sort of like got my feet wet with comics like that, like independent underground comics.
Nice.
And so ever since then, I just kind of wanted to, I had like the project itself, we were disseminating it to publishers, and it really didn't go far because it was really expensive, actually, like hiring actors and models to like be part of like some photorealistic comic. That's like a lot of budget, right?
Yeah.
And we only were able to produce like 1.5 issues, and we had this like huge like story arc plan and it like all these other things and all these like spin-off novels and about characters and that were in the works, but it was just like nothing really came of it. And so that, and actually the colorist that worked on the first 2 issues of Power Rangers and Nightmare on Elm Street was the artist for that. So he's like a digital photographer, a storyboard artist in LA. So that was how I met him, and so he agreed to work on that project with me. But that wasn't my first crossover. If you look on the website for Power Rangers and Nightmare on Elm Street, I did a Batman and Doctor Who crossover.
Oh, very cool.
And it's underneath the bonus section on the website, and he was the colorist for that as well. So that's
cool.
Really got started. That was my first crossover. And Batman and Doctor Who, and it was sort of like 80s Batman and 80s Doctor Who, specifically Tom Baker, the 4th Doctor.
Okay.
And, I guess I love Doctor Who, obviously, and I think that people who really like Doctor Who would even nowadays would not really be that familiar. I guess like it wouldn't be that popular as Power Rangers versus Freddy Krueger. But I was just like kind of obscure. It's like, okay,
who knows? I mean, I feel like it's almost equally as niche. I mean, despite Batman's star power, but
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's basically how I got started. Actually what happened was I had a really the idea for Power Rangers Nightmare on Elm Street crossover came to me on the kind of like a not so great day. I don't want to like go into a lot of details, but it just like struck me out of the blue, like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like Power Rangers versus Freddy Krueger. And
it plays perfectly. The teenager, trope.
Right.
We were talking about that the other week about like, it's so easy to put the Power Rangers into any kind of like atypical teenage setting. You want to see them go up against those kinds of challenges. So anyway,
right. And also like tonal wise, I think they really do match. Like if you watch the movies and like specifically Dream Warriors, and if you watch like season 1 or 2 of Power Rangers, specifically maybe like season 1, they sort of have like a tonal overlap, and they both are like kind of like not two-dimensional, but the good characters are really good and the bad characters like rawr. And so, but it is like the teenage empowerment thing is big in both, or whatever, like good teens can kick ass basically, and that's kind of what kind of inspired that. But did I expect it to go kind of evolve into what it's become? No, I didn't. I thought it would just be like another one shot, and I didn't expect to involve like other franchises at first either.
Yeah, right. It branches out pretty quickly. Actually.
I didn't really have a lot. That wasn't really planned. It's like each issue now actually I have 15 issues planned. So we're like
Okay.
planning to go really far. So this might even be going like towards the end of the decade. Who knows? And I would really like to pick up the production schedule on it. But a lot of the things that are happening with this project now, it's mostly just down to our work bandwidth, because Francisco Maurice, the artist, he works on a bunch of other projects, right? And original, and I think he works on some tokusatsu show. He's like the main artist for it in Brazil that's still getting started up. So he has a lot going on. And when people like write in all the time, they're like, where are those new pages, or why is an issue 5 out, or whatever? It's mostly because we're just like swamped with work.
Oh, I imagine.
Sure. Yeah, it's tough.
I was blown away with the artwork. I don't know about you guys.
I loved it.
It was straight. Gave Boom a run for their money.
Right. I do like the Boom comics a lot, and I would love to be able to obviously write for that in official capacity. But it's it's really rewarding to. I feel like Power Rangers as a franchise has been kind of not neutralized, but there's like certain things you can't do, right? You can't bring in specific characters because of like rights, or you can't specifically like Kamen Rider, you can't bring in all these other new characters that you might want to, like even like the Hellraiser stuff. Like you can't really mesh all those things together. You can't really and there's like specific ground rules about what you can do, especially after the Neo Saban seasons. I feel like that kind of set Power Rangers back a little bit, like not all the way, but definitely like Disney. I mean, those are controversial seasons with people, but I feel like
we're Disney fans here.
No, we often say that I think like they got a little bit more creative wiggle room, like Post in Space and even in space, but like I feel like SPD and those seasons really stand out, especially after Neo Saban. Like you see them kind of regress, and suddenly it's like, okay, here's like our scripture, like I'm coming back with these hard rules in the sand and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Right. And they were starting to cater to an older audience, and that was what Disney was kind of savvy in that way. Like they noticed like, oh well, the fan base is growing up, and there's potential to make it more of like a narratively more satisfying experience for these fans, so we can start speaking to them. But and then Neo Saban was just like continuity, like serialized arcs, like nah, we don't need those, we just need tiny stuff,
more Bulk and Skull.
Oh yeah, the more Bulk and Skull, and like more, I don't know, just like compartmentalized plots, like just standalone stuff that kind of loosely ties into the next episode.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean,
that's when Dino Fury came out. There was like this. One of the writers said when he worked on Neo Saban stuff, they had to have the out of costume fight, in costume fight, Megazord, and no overlapping episode arcs.
Yeah, I didn't really get that. So that didn't make any sense, especially with like anniversary seasons like Mega Force or Super Mega Force, right? And you could tell it was trying to be, desperately wanted to have those overarching stories, but they never really were allowed to. It just felt really, I can't even think of the right word. I'm a writer, I can't think of the right word.
It's almost like very one-dimensional as a show. Like every episode, while it's its own thing, doesn't really kind of mesh well if you go like, because we've been watching all the shows out of order, and nothing is that confusing.
Well, the comics
last week's episode of Wild Force we watched was actually pretty confusing.
Completely out of context, but the Boom comics I think are really lucky because they sort of got to go out there and be, we're a little unshackled here. We get to kind of rebuild it from the ground up. We get to kind of create like our sort of like perfect version of it, our perfect vision of it, and where the show isn't really lucky enough to have that opportunity, but maybe now it is. It's such an exciting sort of new frontier now. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
but
I do have a question kind of on the topic of that. When I was reading Nightmare on Elm Street Power Rangers, what made you decide to choose this team of 5?
Besides the main season,
Aisha,
that's an awesome question. First of all, I don't feel like those characters get a lot of exposure anymore. They feel sort of like second rate, even though they had a huge impact on, they were part of the movie. They were part of a big part of the continuity. They're actually like a whole new era started.
Right.
And actually like another reason is, and this is a little bit more serious, I guess, is because did we really want to see Trini get, in some horror situation? So it's more like a sensitivity thing as well. That was a part of it. But it was also just because there's more, if you notice, like if you read through the tone is very kind of comedic, right?
Sure.
I mean, Jason, Zach, and Trini weren't really, they were more like traditional superheroes. They're very kind of stoic. Not really Zach, but I mean, they just have more of a, you can't really gravitas or whatever. You can't really do much and I feel like at the end of season 2 of MMPR, which really inspires the tone of this comic, specifically like the last half, like Blue Ranger Gone Bad and everything. That's a really funny episode if you like watch it. Like it's really like sharply written. And the cast has like a really good chemistry and they can pull off the comedic timing really well, or it just feels kind of like witty. And the villains too, like that specific era, they like Zed and Rita and all that, like that family. And even, Rito comes in later, but you could just do more, you could pull off comedy more. And I feel like that's a huge component of it. But
Good
basically
point.
just like, I really love, Stephen Cardenas and Johnny Young Bosch and Karen Ashley. And I just kind of wanted to give them a little bit more content because even in the Boom comics, I noticed they're sort of sidelined. They're like, okay, now we introduced them. And now Jason, Zach, and Trini are still here, but they have like,
right. They have their own book now. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So just paying tribute to them. And also to be transparent, I would really like Karen Ashley or Johnny Young Bosch to help write their own Nightmare story arc, which is
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Sure. That'd be very cool. Have you always been a big Nightmare fan, like almost like as equal to Power Rangers?
actually not as equal to Power Rangers. I mean, I've always been into it. I used to grow up going to Blockbuster, right? And I had this friend named Jess Reister who helps, that from high school, who helps me kind of like come up with ideas. Sometimes I ask her input on it, and she actually she introduced me to basically the horror section of Blockbuster. When I mean, specifically like Nightmare on Elm Street. Like I was only familiar with the covers. I was a little scared to watch them, but I really like just the way that the story progresses, and I like that each movie. I guess I really like fantasy horror. I think that's one of my favorite subgenres of horror.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not as like gung ho about it as I am about Power Rangers, because really there's not a lot of content there, and there's not a lot of like the comics, like the actual Nightmare on Elm Street comics, they kind of missed the point. Like they just try to make Freddy Krueger look like, oh, let's just capitalize on the fact that he's some perverted murderer. You know what I mean?
No, right. Those comics are very shallow.
Yeah. And kind of, misogynistic and whatever. And like they missed that part of it where I like that Freddy Krueger was kind of more, towards later on, he got little like Flanderized or whatever, or kind of more cheesier, and he was kind of more a clown or a mascot, but people forget about that. Like people are like, oh, that part of his brand identity is sort of gone. So it was more about, bringing that back, like bringing back like the kind of like crude humor and just kind of like making it more fun. And I mean, it is kind of odd to like say that about a character that has done such vile things, but and I actually am a big Evil Dead fan. Actually, Evil Dead is probably what I would be the most biggest into, and Hellraiser as well. And but no spoilers there.
I don't think I've ever seen the Hellraiser films.
You haven't?
No. Yeah, I think those were one of the ones on Blockbuster. I was like, nope.
I'm a massive Evil Dead fan as well.
Me too.
As something that you are hoping to incorporate into the story?
There's a smile there. He's in episode.
I think my smile is gonna say everything. So yes, there's gonna be some evil. I will say that yes, there's gonna be Evil Dead stuff coming up.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, and it's going to tie in to later seasons of the Saban era. So it's going to, specifically like the Zordon era. So it's some stuff is planned. It's going to be a tribute to both Evil Dead and a specific show that comes after Zeo.
Okay, comes after Zeo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I feel like Ash could make something of Turbo. It's funny though, because horror doesn't have a lot of heroic characters to pick from. It feels like it's more like the villains or the reoccurring fixtures. So it's like Ash being there. I was excited to hear you say that. It's like, well, I'm not saying that that's what you're saying is going to happen, but just that Evil Dead is incorporated is
that he might be there.
Yeah. I mean, I have him next
and
to
there
my
might
Power
be
Rangers.
there might be a cabin, and there might be, you know, some people stuck in a cabin, and there might be chicks, and there might be some cars, and there might be the Phantom Ranger. Who knows? I don't know. Oops, I said too much.
Yeah.
Ah.
Well, it's cool to see you're obviously a big fan of the supporting cast in Power Rangers. Like, you jumped at the opportunity to bring back these cool characters, and the Equations are so much cooler looking than they ever do anything. So it was really cool to see them, you know, like actually like take the center stage. But
yeah, that was I was like really jumping at the chance to include them, and even like Master Rider. And sorry, I know Master Rider is considered kind of too like not as cool, but I really liked that show when I was a kid. I mean, it was goofy, but actually it was kind of funnier. Like the comedic stuff was funnier in some episodes than some of the like Bulk and Skull stuff. Not dissing on Bulk and Skull, but like I'm a big Kamen Rider fan too. But I was like Alien Rangers, I remember, was like a really good memory, like for me, like growing up, like even though it was a bit silly now, kind of Beetleborgs-esque, like where the tone of it was, like it was just really cool. Like, what are they gonna do? And like these like new and crazy ninja-looking aliens, and then you know, like they have similar Zords, or like how are they tied into the ninja powers, and like all this stuff sort of like came into my head, like all these ideas about it. And that was what I wanted to express, because like it feels like there's an overlap since they got their powers from Ninja, right? Like like the Battleborgs look like the Shogun Zords and all that stuff. So that's one of the things that I obviously have been doing with this. I was like, I gotta like bring in, like try to like tie up some loose plot threads, or bring out some of the subtext there.
Now, not saying that you are planning, but I'm just asking out of curiosity, as a other horror fan, are there any other classic horror villains that you may or may not have planned for that you would like to see come into the issues?
Yeah, so there's a particular iconic, I'm just gonna say it, Michael Myers. I'm planning on maybe bringing in, but I'm trying to figure out the right way to incorporate him. But there's always going to be, so one of the main elements of Power Rangers and Nightmare on Elm Street is surprise. Okay,
right.
I'm always trying to bring in new surprises. Like, how can we like make it like bring in something new and like blow people's minds, be like, well, I never expected that, you know, or like and make people excited for what happens next. And so I want to be able, no, not just kind of ruin the surprise with Michael Miles, but it might, you know, it might be cameo, it might be a story, like a particular arc, I don't know, who knows. But yes, there are, but stuff like that, like I'm going to be like incorporating more horror icons as like Easter eggs, and maybe like quick scenes. And because, you know, there's actually a lot of battles that happen in between certain issues. Like there's a battle that happened between issue 2 and 3 where the Alien Rangers met Lord Fred, and it involves the I Know What You Did Last Summer Fisherman.
Oh, cool.
So that's the story that I was gonna like do, is sort of like a I don't know, like a light novel-esque, like published on the website or something like that. But I might just like come up with like a quick one shot of it. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, it's getting that reboot, so it seems timely, you know.
Yeah.
Well, have you, when you think about the teenagers, because obviously teenagers are a staple of horror, do you ever think about like who you like, survivors from certain movies that you put in, like, oh, this could be, you could morph at some point, Pool, you know, like
yeah, and that ties into what's going on with the nightmare sequences. I don't know if you noticed this, but in the actual Super Zeo Nightmare, we have Kirsty from Hellraiser, who's playing Robert Englund's, the Carl Zichter, who's Robert Englund's the guy who plays Freddy.
Oh, she's the assistant. Right. And you also have Johnny Depp there, and right.
So they actually have something that ties into morphing, or they're there.
Okay.
They're not just cameos. They're gonna have, like, in issue 5, you're gonna find out why they're there, and they have like a particular reason, especially being in their nightmares.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
I like that.
But particular survivors, you know, Nancy, obviously you can't go on with Nancy. Are the Dream Warriors going to morph at some point? Maybe.
They seem poised to do it, you know.
Yeah.
Or more, you know, or like Tommy Jarvis or somebody like that, you know.
I really like God, I'm trying to think of, like, see, you put me on the spot. I'm trying to think of teenagers or people like,
no, that's cool,
Final Girls or something like that. I think the people that I have involved in it now, Yeah, I'd like that they'd be able to morph. I guess like Alice the Dream Master too, but Alice the Dream Master is going to have a lot of more stuff to do, and she's going to take on kind of a more mentor-like role for the team soon. So
That's cool. Well,
That is cool.
it's interesting too because, with the setting and stuff, the movie or the show. Oh God, it's a comic book. It has it feels like New Nightmare a lot. Especially with like balancing like them being on the movie set and then being in real life and having that sort of meta commentary of like, are they real? And then Freddy, like you having Robert Englund as the director, like that was very neat because it feels like, Dream Warriors is such an iconic, it's like the most celebrated sequel, but like for you to like, oh, like no, like there's a lot of other references to other Freddy movies, which is cool. So anyway.
yeah, and so actually New Nightmare will have its own tribute.
Okay.
And with a particular character that and it's going to be kind of meshed with Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna have like, but I'm not gonna mention which characters have that nightmare, but it's gonna kind of blend specific kind of the elements of both of those, like themes of like, oh, there's a monster inside of me, or
becoming Freddy, or right.
But also like somebody who's trying to, it's gonna get kind of meta again, and some characters, it's sort of based on, you could probably figure out what I'm talking about, but it's somebody who's trying to put Power Rangers behind them and move on with their career and like dealing with, becoming like a filmmaker or something like that. And you probably know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Like the New Nightmare tribute.
Okay. That's
like
very cool.
Do you know these Freddy movies like the back of your hand, or do you always have to keep going back and watching these to figure out the lore of those guys?
I actually have the third one. I've watched a bunch at this point, and it's like I try to pick up new things, and there's really not a lot after a while. It's like, well, there's enough to work with. I do really like. I've been having to watch like the Dream Child and the Dream Master. Wait, I switched those.
I never remember anything about Dream Child other than the beginning when with the birth. Like I can't remember anything else.
Yeah, that one actually is pretty scary. Like there's some scary deaths. Like that motorcycle thing is nuts, but it's also kind of wacky. What's really bad is I've actually seen Freddy's Dead probably the most, like a lot, which is like the goofiest, kind of like not as coolest one, but I like the kind of the tone of it. But I actually haven't seen the first one very often, which is kind of a weird like revelation or confession to make.
Right.
But I don't really know them all like the back of my hand. I wish I did. And I'm not really a fan of the reboot. And I'm going to have some reboot jokes eventually, or do something, poke fun at it or whatever.
Yeah. I don't remember anything about the reboot.
I liked the reboot.
You did?
I did. But a lot of people didn't, so I don't really say that I did.
I actually saw it when it first came out, and I don't want to diss on like poo-poo on it.
It's okay. I won't take it personally.
Okay. Actually, I should revisit it because I need to like make jokes about it, or like at least like try to pay tribute to it at least, or have like I think Haley or what's his name? The guy
Haley Joel Osment.
No,
Osment.
No, I mean, what's the actual like guy who played the Freddy Krueger?
Jack Earl Haley. Haley. Yeah.
Haley Joel Osment. You know who'd be a really good
Haley Joel? He played Freddy. Did you know?
I thought you were talking about the actual actor. I was like, was he even in that movie?
No.
You should be in another Hellraiser movie.
Actually, you know what? I gotta say this though. I think who would make a really good Freddy Krueger is Elijah Wood.
Okay.
Okay.
Out there pick. I mean, why not?
Okay, cool. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
What makes you say that?
I just think he has like the right look. Like he can like he would have the right tone for it, and he would get like the like weird twisted humor side of it, and just like his facial features would work well.
That's a good pick. He'd probably be excited to prove he could do it because
yeah.
Break from
short
the
little Freddy though.
Yeah.
Put him on stilts.
He's not the most famously tall guy, anyway, right? Freddy. I mean, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, as you've been writing it, and as you've sort of had this opportunity to play in the Power Rangers sandbox, do you sometimes do you get to a point where you're like, wow, I'm really like elevating Power Rangers to this status that I wish it could always be, but I have to like keep Freddy in it? I'm sure the horror stuff is really an exciting element, but do you ever sort of wish that it was just your take on Power Rangers?
100%, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm actually working on a script for a same characters and everything, same era, like late season 2, where the Mighty Morphin team takes on the Psycho Rangers.
Oh, cool. That's very cool.
Maybe with Scorpina. So
okay.
I'm really like trying
I know who that is.
Yeah.
But I'm really like trying to like position it like, you know, because I do like it's fun like having the like the two opposites together, like something so light and something so dark, and it really like blends well. But I just really like to be able to demonstrate or elevate, like you said, Power Rangers as something that's like on its own, that can stand on its own without and make it more accessible to adults, or not, you know, not adult like that kind of audience,
but all ages.
All ages, yes.
Yeah.
Like what they like, I feel like, you know, we got there close with Disney, and then we haven't been there in 10 years, and it's like that's one of the main things that I want to do is just bring, because we have all these adult fans, like especially like the earlier, you know, seasons, the classic ones, like, you know, and even those are sort of written on more of a mature level. And at the time when I was watching, I was like, God, this is kind of corny sometimes. But now looking back, like stuff like Lightspeed Rescue and Lost Galaxy.
That's my favorite season. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Lightspeed's
really
good.
Yeah, for sure. And it's
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, what was your take on the 2017 film?
I'm not the biggest fan, but I'm not like opposed to it, right? Like I watched it, and so it's like Power Rangers. I think that it kind of reminded me of I Know What You Did Last Summer a little bit. Like,
sure. Okay.
There's like the particular scenes, like the dock and everything. I think that we needed a little bit more time with the suits, and I could see why, you know, they tried to, delay that a bit to try to make it more serious. I feel like they could have filmed like 2 sequels back to back or something, or at least like had it to where they were already a teen. I don't know. I there's a lot of potential there, you know, and I wish that would just like, I know there was comic books, but I feel like they would get a lot of people to if they released its own series, people would probably eat that up, like comic book series.
Yeah, it's a very divisive one. Like we watched it a long time ago, and we made some posts about it, and people were like, it was so great, they need to continue it, and the other was like, it's trash.
I think what it proves is that the Power Ranger fan base is so hungry for anything that's taking them a little bit more seriously, and they just don't even know how good they could have it. You know, like they got that movie and it's like, give me more, and it's like, yeah, but that was like Asperger. Like I can give you good burger. Like you can have like an actually delicious burger, you know? Like you don't have to settle for that. It's like a person who gets out of prison and they didn't know they could have good food.
I think there was some weird choices. Like I didn't expect like that one like bull joke or something at the beginning. Like it was kind of starting off on that note, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
And then, like the Krispy Kreme thing. I was like, what? Okay. I think that it was good for what it was. Is it something that I would rewatch? Is it my favorite Power Rangers movie? No. I think for some reason, well, I can't really pick one, but I mean, I am partial to Turbo for some reason.
We just watched the Turbo movie.
We just watched that one.
But we recently.
It was like a year ago.
Yeah.
We're watching the movies backwards, so we're waiting to get to the Mighty Morphin movie.
Yeah.
So,
a question for you guys: are you going to watch the Samurai, whatever that was? It's sort of considered a movie, the RPM crossover clash of the.
I've seen it before, and it's so bad that I was just like, why? It's like
it's not a movie. How long is it? It's
not
like
even 40. It's like an hour. Or something.
It's a TV movie. Okay,
it's less than an hour, but it's just so awful. And they like, maybe if we watched more, like we barely even watched any RPM at all.
We've seen one episode.
Like with Caitlin, we've only watched one episode. Did we watch one? Yeah, we've only ever, so that's the only one we've ever seen.
That was the first episode.
First episode that she watched. And we've also barely watched Samurai because we hate Jaden so much. So we can barely
I'm not a big fan either. Yeah, I don't get the casting there. That was interesting.
It was so bizarre. No, it doesn't make any sense.
I know. Give us Jaden's sister. Like that's yeah.
She had more of a screen presence the whole time, and he was just like, "Hey, what's up?"
Oh, yeah. The fact that she was just even like the fact that her Red Ranger costume had a skirt had more personality than he did the entire.
But what makes you partial to the Turbo movie?
That it actually fit in the continuity of the series. For one.
Okay.
Act 2, there's like this crazy wild history about all the deleted scenes and material that you didn't get
the
to
mermaid.
See. Yeah. And that was actually, I had a comic version. I had a magazine, and some of these pictures are online. I'm trying to find like a copy of this magazine. It was like Turbo Power Rangers magazine or something. And they had like a comic adaptation of the movie, and they had the mermaid storyline still intact in there. And I was like, cool. Who the heck is this mermaid? And so, but they don't have like the Zeo power, whatever happened. I don't know, like where they got their powers smashed while fighting Piranhatrons. So I don't really know if that's true or not, but
in the movie, they don't mention it at all. They're just like, here's your new powers.
And people are like, oh, it's Zeo powers, like you couldn't, like water is the weakness for Zeo powers. It's like, no, I don't really think so. I think she just like fell in the water. I don't think it like short circuited the but I always thought that the Turbo powers were just sort of like a new skin on the Zeo powers, and like that's because the same color scheme, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know this, but we've watched some episodes, and they can't morph if it's snowing.
If it's too cold, they can't morph. Like that's just like that's happened in many episodes where the cold weather it will affect their morphers.
Yeah,
I think it's silly. I think like, you know, rain, sleet, or snow or whatever. Like the Rangers should be able to do. That's why I like Lightspeed Rescue. You know, those guys can freaking deep dive in those. No frills. You know, like anyway.
Like clearly, it was Saban being like, "We don't have suits in the right now, so you guys can't morph."
It's because we watch too many Christmas specials. So we're like, why do they always lose their powers in the snow?
No, you'd want them to morph during Christmas special, wouldn't you? But no, they're like, no, we're just gonna hang out and, you know, be cute. I think
Santa's workshop had like the magic stopped the morphing or something.
I wanted them to throw down at Santa's workshop next time. Yeah.
Same, but all we got was like a snowball fight with like Goldar or something.
Yeah.
Like,
lame. You should bring back Santa. Please bring Santa back and redeem that arc.
Okay, I was actually planning on doing a Christmas special type, like maybe like 5-page thing where it was sort of like a nightmare about it.
Okay.
Do you get that a lot? Just in the DMs, like, hey.
Oh, you got to. Yeah.
Put this guy in it. Put this guy in it.
When's the mummy gonna be in it?
When's Chucky arriving?
Here, Midas, mummy. I don't know.
I do get people asking like for VR Troopers, and I really would love to add that in.
Yeah.
But I don't really know how to do that, and I don't really know. You know, VR Troopers it got so weird, like especially season 2
when they got the new costumes.
And like the weird sets and everything. But I really like that. So they had some like really complex episodes. I don't know if you're familiar with all like that whole series, but
I vaguely remember. I mostly remember the guy holding on to his iguana, just like being the bad guy.
Apparently, he owns a winery somewhere. That's what
the bad guy does.
Yeah, no, like the guy who plays the bad guy, like he's some like wine. That's a random trivia for you. So
he's still trying to kill the VR Troopers, and I know it.
But more sophisticated with the noir. Yeah.
No, but the Metal Hero costumes are cool, and you have such a great artist, you know. Like it'd be cool to. I mean, I was so blown away. I mean, I don't remember when the comic first came on my radar, but Instagram recommends so much Power Ranger stuff now that we have this podcast. And when I started reading it, I was like, wow, this the story. I like comic books a lot, you know, and obviously that delicate balance between art and story, it's like really, really, really important. And it's cool that you were able to find someone that feels equally passionate about such a unique pitch, you know. Do you want to like how did you go about finding this partner for this?
Actually, I went on Reddit and I saw one of his fan arts for I think Trini, like some of the Power Ranger girls or something. I mean, it was very like, you know, male gazy, but I mean, it was like the art was really good. And I think I saw, no, wait, this was after he started working together, I think. But he has this one art piece where it's like Jason, all like the original MPMPR, like fighting Jew Ranger, like they're all unmorphed. Have you seen
I've
that?
seen that. That was him. I had no idea. Okay, great. Yeah.
And just looking through, actually, what you said about Metal Heroes, I saw some of his on his profile or like his DeviantArt or whatever. I saw a lot of his metal art or Metal Hero art that he did, and I was like, he would totally get it because he knows like the action shots really well. Like he's good with like the dimensional stuff.
They feel very proportioned and real, which is nice. Yeah.
And that's one of the things with Boom comics, like it looks like Power Rangers, but it doesn't. Like everyone's looking for like I like photorealism sometimes when it comes to art, and I feel like that's a really good way to position it, the comic, as a alternate view of them and not have to get mixed up with Boom. So it looks actually like the TV show, and everybody look like it's an actual like film production.
Right.
It's really important to me just to be able to portray that and kind of have it be like, you don't just have to like leave stuff up to the imagination and be like, what character is doing that? Like, oh, you know who that is, like they're recognizable.
Right.
And just trying to make it feel like you're watching the TV show. And that's one of the reasons why like sometimes I'll include like at the beginning, like today on Power Rangers or something like that. Like it's really important to like maintain that that atmosphere that the show had, or just really like cultivate that and make it feel like the TV show. Because like the Boom comics are great. They did evolve. It has evolved way past that. Like it's its own comic book now. It feels like its own universe and everything. It's really important just to maintain and pay tribute to that, how Power Rangers was when I was growing up.
Sure.
Yeah. I've not caught up on Boom at all.
I keep buying them, but I haven't. Let's see, what do I have right in here? Yeah, no, I'm not. I haven't read any of those.
Yeah, I actually haven't read a lot of I mean, I don't know if they're going to listen to this. I haven't read a lot of it either, because sometimes I'm like, oh, cool, that looks like it's from X-Men or something. And I don't know, like, but not that I'm not poo-pooing on those either, but it's like, I feel like that's its own continuity, and I feel like that's its own type of Power Rangers that, it's a new generation. And then also like, I just like the TV show. Like I love comics, but I'm really inspired by like TV writing and everything like that. I just want to bring, one of the things I want to do is like practice like TV, like storytelling in a comic book format, like actually have all this stuff happen in an issue. And sometimes like comic issues, like it's kind of drawn out and it's like, it is about the part, but just having like something where like story in each issue where everything just like a lot of stuff happens and you don't know what's going to happen. And when you actually like read that, even if there's like a wait, it's like enough. Like you feel like, okay, well, that was like a lot crammed into a little space. So that's a big challenge for me. And sometimes why the issues run a little bit long. Like I feel like issue 5 is going to be super long. It's going to be like maybe, I don't know, double length. I don't know, because a lot of stuff's going to happen, but it's more about just having that satisfying experience like you're watching a TV show. That's basically my secret. I just want to bring that type of storytelling to comic book format.
Nice.
No, that's admirable. I feel like most comics today, they're really, what they really want to sell you is the trade paperback, right? So it's cool to see, like, that's almost like a more old school style of storytelling where you really want your reader to feel like they're getting their money out of that issue. Right. There's the Power Ranger Freddy Krueger is very dense. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes they'd be like, I gotta be on issue 2. I'm like, oh wow, no, this is issue 1. If this had been printed, I would be like, wow, I got my money out of that.
Yeah. And that's on purpose. But but I'd love to be able to like, help out with Boom, comics like that, hopefully one day, and be able to bring that, maybe even not even just write for the continuity that Ryan Parrott and them have created, but kind of its own. That would be great. Or even, I would be down to do like a Dream Warriors comic too, just even Nightmare on Elm Street. It's like Dream Warriors is so popular, but again, there's not a lot of content out there. And it's just like, and they didn't even get to do a lot. They didn't have, they were just like, we have one fight with Freddy Krueger or something.
Yeah, they get all killed off in the next movie. It's like, they learned all these powers,
Which is disempowering a little bit, which is why, you needed, like, I'm happy to like bring them into everything. And there's obviously like a Nightmare on Elm Street is sort of like a TV show too. Like they do have like serialized stories and it kind of bleeds into each other, and that kind of fits in with the way Power Rangers was written. So
gosh, I'm gonna have to watch a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street this Halloween season. They're always on TV too. I don't know.
Halloween season is the perfect time to watch all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
It's coming up, man. I was at the store the other day. The Halloween stuff's up.
I know. We went to the Disney
it's
store.
Pumpkin spice latte time.
Pumpkin spice everything.
Yeah, I do enjoy Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm one of the things I found out or discovered from publishing this is that there's such a huge fan base for Nightmare on Elm Street, and they're like, they're of all ages. Like it's an all ages property, and it's like Power Rangers. Like you get like people I get like followers that are like, in their early teens or something, and they like know everything about Freddy Krueger. They like have all this Freddy Krueger style and swag, and it's really interesting to see that, those movies that were considered like, R-rated or whatever, like now that's just like kind of not that scary for kids, and they're just
true.
Right, not as spicy.
Which helps out with its the appeal of match. Then that matches the complements Power Rangers' appeal pretty well. So
I like that.
Yeah, nice.
I like that it has the 80s feel and not the modern Freddy feel.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yes, that's important to me. I love the 80s and I love the 90s, and I just want to like maintain that like aesthetic for both of those.
The classic villains, not the classic villains remade.
No, not the classic villains remade. And I love being able to, bring that back, and then like, and I love being able to like bring back this like clothes that they're wearing in the comic, right? Like
and
a lot of the times, like I'll go through certain episodes, and I pick out outfits for Francisco to draw, and he'll just like be like, okay, cool. So like it's a lot of this, like there's a lot of studying going on with some of these things. Like I don't know how many times I've watched season 3, like I have to, like grab some of like I have to like figure out, because this is a retelling of season 3. Like this whole Power Rangers Nightmare on Elm Street is about season 3, and it's like so I have to like figure out how to combine that and some of like the magic from the original movie, and tell kind of like a better story, not a better story, but something that's a little bit more climactic, because like I really do love season 3. It's really good. Even though you don't have a lot of Sentai footage, you have a lot of serialized, like really dramatic events. Like Kimberly's exit was amazing. I thought like that was the best Ranger exit. I mean, besides Tommy, but he didn't really, go anywhere.
Leave. Yeah.
Leave. He's just like, I'll be back later.
What do you think of the Ninjetti suits?
What was that?
What do you think of the Ninjetti costumes?
I love it, and they're coming in. They're going to be in issue 5. They start appearing in issue 5.
Oh, nice.
I was like, oh, we're earning that. That's cool.
The new cover that Francisco just did features the Ninjetti outfits. So we're gonna get like a lot of the nightmares that are coming up have to do or tie into like sort of like the Ninja Quest type thing, but it's more like how Zeo Quest was, where they were going through these they're getting their shards of the Zeo crystal. So that's kind of another thing. It's sort of retelling of how they got their powers, but in a way that's kind of a little more intense and climactic again.
Got it.
I had a question, if that's okay. I feel like I've been asking like, okay, cool. When you're approaching how to balance the road that you're walking between, the very violent and dark Nightmare on Elm Street and those horror properties, and Power Rangers, which is very light and and that kind of thing, do you try to come up with any sort of like internal rule for like, well, for example, Bulk and Skull get basically just disemboweled right in the first issue, like because you get to see like their guts, and it's like, okay, like this is a big deal because Bulk and Skull are face characters, and you're seeing them bleed. Like in the show, of course, they would never ever be confronted with that kind of injury or that kind of violence, right?
No.
But the Rangers themselves, you've managed to keep very heroic despite like having to deal with the nightmares from Freddy. So do you sort of have to keep like this rule, like, well, I'm not going to get Kimberly's arm cut off, like, like I kind of keep them fighting, yeah.
And that's a good point. Like you do have to keep them fighting. Somebody like Bulk and Skull, I mean, obviously that they had to get in contact with the Dream Warriors, right? So it's not like they actually were one and done and slaughtered and that was it.
Right.
But I mean, there is certain things like it is, you do have to find a fine balance between, and that's, why another reason why some of these nightmare visions or whatever is happening with the main cast while they're going on their ninja power quest. Why those exist, because then eventually like there's going to be like, that's why you're introducing all these new characters and everything. And that's also another reason why you were introducing like Alien Rangers and Masked Rider and like people like the Cenobites, because they can take care of like the kind of gory side of things, or like maybe you don't really want to injure them too much either, but at the same time like they kind of feel more adult or feel like less attached to them emotionally,
right? Because they're not really like, they're not the people we've been buying toys of forever or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're able to like you're able to show like they feel more mature in some way. Like you're able to like do more with them, and it does feel like anything could happen with them. And I mean, yeah,
Right.
it's kind of unfair to like give the main cast like plot armor, I suppose, but at the same time, like
Yeah.
Well, you
Uh,
come to expect it from Power Rangers, so it's not
right.
like, yeah.
And also like they are sort of like they are protected in a way, like they do have power,
Right.
you know, and they have like the magic or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I was never, but also, you know, in the first issue I think we had that scene where they did have nightmares, right? Or like they
Yeah.
were,
Yeah, they were injured. Yeah.
but it was a dream, right? So there is a lot of, I feel like issue 1 is kind of like more, I noticed like, because I read some people, like I've seen some message board stuff, it's still kind of an obscure like property or whatever, but I did an interview last year, and so I saw some messages where people are saying like, oh, you don't have to make it dark and gritty, or like, oh, it doesn't have to go and be gory and scary and all that stuff. And it's like, I feel like, well, did I start off on the wrong foot, like having like the gore happen, like killing off Bulk and Skull and everything, because like that might turn people off, or it might be like, oh, this is going to be too much for me.
Right. The book
Yeah.
is much lighter than that first issue, really kind of. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I
understand.
think yeah, that's true.
But I think it was important, you know, to establish like it is scary and there's going to be scary. I mean, this is coming up is probably going to be like the darkest one we've done yet, and it's not going to be something where it affects the main cast, but it's going to be like scary events happening. Like obviously, like we have the Hellraiser stuff going on. That's going to get like even more darker. With like Angel Grove is basically like decimated at this point. And there's still,
oh yeah, I saw people getting wrecked by the Cenobites. That was yeah.
So, but again, that's all about like you're not attached to them, right? And you know, that's sort of like the putties. Like you don't really care, or they're not like not that you don't care, but I mean, again, like there's gonna maybe you know there's gonna be a way to fix that. Who knows? I'm not gonna say. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I guess the last question we got is that you kind of mentioned before we even started officially going is you asked us what our favorite seasons are. Maybe we could go around and do that. I also want to know who your favorite Ranger is.
Oh, okay.
We want to start with you, or we'll start with Caitlin. Caitlin's our newbie.
No!
We'll go with Mac.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to think.
Caitlin, we brought into the Power Rangers world.
No, well, just because I want to just also say one thing.
We'll go for it. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Just as like a follow-up to that, it's interesting too because like obviously you know the Power Rangers do have plot armor, but that's sort of fun because especially in this setting, the other side of it is seeing them get to cut loose a little bit more. Like, do you ever think about how exciting it is that like, oh, now they can actually cut things with their swords, you know, like, or like we're actually seeing them like use their weapons in offense. So that must be also kind of exciting.
It is, you know, the putty sequence with the Freddy putties was great.
Yeah,
it lasted a little bit longer, and we're actually. It's funny that you say that too, because like in issue 5, we're going to be really making that more of a like really adding some action. And I've actually been studying like Fist of the North Star, like manga stuff.
Oh wow, really? Like a big explosion punches and
right, and like being really gory. And I mean,
because they're that strong. I mean, it's not. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
It's going to be way more of that, and you know that's why I say it's going to be the darkest one. But and I feel like we've had a lot of story that's been really kind of funny and light, and you know it's been sort of scary. But we're trying to like really like pump that up this time, and it's not going to like ruin the tone of anything or be like too distracting from what's going on. But it's just something that we're just trying to establish more and just kind of make it feel like all these events are happening. It's like too much, but then at the end there's going to be like hope and everything. So it's going to be like a journey through that. And then issue 6 hopefully will feel like kind of a new start and kind of like in a futuristic kind of
like season 2 or something, you know.
Yeah, it's gonna be like this is sort of like the season finale of like everything, or like or of season 1. And like you're right, it's gonna be like season 2 after this.
Okay, cool. Well, my answer is super. I already said Lightspeed Rescue, so I feel like I can just get that out of the way. But my favorite Power Ranger is super basic. I like Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I like their G.I. Joe vibe. Like, I think it's cool that Lightspeed Rescue, like you said, feels dependable. Like, as opposed to like kids that happen to be in the right place. They were recruited, like they were recruited special, and I think that's kind of cool. But
yeah, Carter's a great Ranger. You know, like he did a lot of like ballsy stuff. Like he was, he took a lot of initiative and like
he knows how to shoot a gun. I mean, like not that I'm like a big gun guy, but it feels like the Rangers rarely reach for that. You know, and I'm like, you can just shoot this guy. Like, shoot him with your lasers. You know?
He always just goes to the gun.
He knows what's up, and like he'll do that unmorph too, and he's like pew pew pew, and he does like all the stunts and everything. He's great.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I have like a couple. Oh wait, is it my turn? Whose turn is it next?
I'll go. I would say my favorite Ranger's Tommy, Green Ranger.
Who's that?
Yeah. Well, it's
Never heard of him.
It's either Tommy when he's a Green Ranger, but I've been struggling because Adam is so cool.
We like Adam, yeah.
And he I want to make him number one, but then I look at the Green Ranger costume and like the nostalgia just comes back. And I'm like, I can't move him out of the number one spot, you know? So
I think one of my pieces of life advice is always be the Green Ranger. Like always like have that like, you know how cool it was, you know, when the Green Ranger first appeared. Anyway, not one of the evil one, but go ahead.
But yeah.
And then my favorite season though is probably Time Force. That's the one I've actually went out and watched A to Z, all the episodes. We were doing that with Mighty Morphin too, but that one it's good.
Yep. Time Force is good.
Yeah, we'll go Caitlin and Steven.
Okay, I had to go check her name because I couldn't remember.
Oh gosh.
So I think it's my favorite Rangers are either Kendall, Morgan, or Amelia.
Okay, yeah.
Because purple's my favorite color.
Who's that?
Amelia from Dino Fury.
Dino Charge.
Yeah.
Kendall's
from Dino Charge. Amelia
Dino
from Dino Fury.
Yeah, right.
Because
wait, who's Amelia?
Amelia from Dino Fury, the girl, the one girl.
Wait, you mean the one who's the Purple Ranger?
Yeah,
no,
so
that's Kendall.
Kendall, the Purple Ranger. I know
Do you know who she's talking about, Steven?
I do know who she's talking about.
Amelia from the new show.
Oh,
the Pink Ranger. Oh,
right. Duh.
Oh.
I like her because I feel like her
That's
personality matches mine.
Yeah.
I feel like a jerk. You're right.
Me too.
Sorry.
I was thinking Dino Thunder the whole time.
I'm not losing my mind. Her name is Amelia.
There's too many dinos.
So the Dino Charge and Dino Fury. I like the two girls.
Fair.
Because purple's my favorite color, and that was the first time I saw a Purple Ranger was with Kendall. I was like, oh, well, I'm sold now. So, and I really like Amelia. I think she's really funny. But when it comes to my favorite season, I don't think I've actually seen a full season of anything because we watch everything so sporadically. But I think my favorite team so far would either have to be season 2 of Mighty Morphin or Space. In Space.
You like Space? Oh, I thought you liked Zeo.
I did like Zeo, didn't I? See, I like too many of them. So
man,
I don't have a favorite season.
Zeo might be my favorite. Oh.
That would have been
Zeo was really good. But I really liked Space because I liked Andromeda. I liked the team. Astronema, not Andromeda. Astronema. I liked the team. I liked the whole aspect of Space. So I think that or Zeo are going to have to go.
Space.
It's a strong season. It's a
great season. It's all fantastic choices, and we were dumb for not
I'm glad
knowing
that you could figure out who I was talking about because I thought I was losing my mind.
That happens weekly, though, to be fair. What are you, Steven?
Well, that's hard to pick, actually. I mean, I really do like RPM. Like I that's one of my favorites, but I feel like everybody says it. Well, not you guys.
Not us.
I like RPM. I feel like whenever I was surprised by the pushback I got from RPM because
the first episode's awful.
I was like, Caitlin's gonna love it because it's the most serious one. Or it's the one that feels the most like a normal TV show.
That was the first episode they ever showed me was RPM episode 1.
To be fair, though, that was the one where they're like, the gates are closed, the world's done.
Yeah, that is true. It was very serious.
And I was like, Ziggy's funny, but
Ziggy is funny. Ziggy is funny.
And he's probably my favorite, actually. Ziggy's my favorite. But I really do like TJ. He's one of my favorite Rangers.
Oh yeah.
I think he was a good Red Ranger, and I really like what happened in what was that called? Chase into Space. Like that was a really hard decision he had to make as a leader, like blowing up the Megazords and everything.
Yeah.
Serious shit. He did it really. Oops, I swore. But he did some really good stuff. He was really he was a good leader, and I feel like his he was like demoted to blue too soon or something. But
I don't know. I
Demoted
don't see
to
that as the
blue.
demotion, though. He
Yeah,
was
I
more of the leader, even though he was the Blue Ranger.
Yeah,
Andros was always
Andros
doing
couldn't
his own
lead
thing.
anything. Are you kidding
Yeah.
me? I always get goosebumps when TJ is doing the thing and like he's at the chessboard and he's like trying to figure out how to stop the Psycho Rangers. Like
Mhm.
that's like some X-Men stuff. Like that was like that's like really cool. But anyway.
I think he's probably my favorite. But you know, speaking of that, like the In Space team didn't really have, it's kind of like a flat team structure, right? It wasn't just like Andros who's like, well, I'm the leader, because everyone kind of felt like they had their own equal thing that they were doing. So,
Totally.
That's true. Yeah, there wasn't really like a power structure there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I liked it. Yeah.
yeah. Do you guys like Sentai at all? Do you watch Super Sentai?
We have.
We have. It's
eh,
great.
Yeah. From what
Boy
we've
is
seen,
my
we liked
favorite.
it. Boy.
I get the Toku Shoutsu channel on Pluto.
Mhm.
So like I've been watching a lot more Sentai since I like in the last year I've been trying to get more into it. And like really it sucks because like we've been watching Power Rangers. We're almost at 100 episodes.
Mm.
And like I like Power Rangers as a kid, but really it's like Doug, I feel like is the biggest fan of the three of us. Like he grew up with it really, strictly. Like I mean, I like Lightspeed Rescue and Lost Galaxy because those were what were on when I was younger. When I was little. Like I didn't actually have a memory of Mighty Morphin New.
Mhm.
And the like Sentai is sort of become like this sort of not like saving grace necessarily, but as we get like more and more into Power Rangers, I find myself like hungry for those snippets of it and also being much more fascinated by the history of like the show being translated into Power Rangers and like the toys and how that happened. Like I remember when I started dating my girlfriend, I showed her the Toys That Made Us episode about Power Rangers because I'm like, here's how I'll explain what this is to you because it does a really good job. And now whenever we talk about it, and I'm like, yeah, I have this Power Rangers podcast. Nina's always like, but you don't get it. It's much more complex than that. And like, I'm like, well, we talk about like the show coming from Japan and stuff. And it's sort of like, oh yeah, I guess this is sort of like what I appreciate the most about Power Rangers now is sort of like this rich background it has. But anyway, I talk too much.
There's so many, obviously.
Why we're on a podcast.
There's so many like different ways, like different tones and moods and everything in Power Rangers. There's like something for everybody, and it's just in that way.
Well, I enjoy it because I always thought Power Rangers was way too cheesy. And also I grew up thinking it was like the boy version of Sailor Moon because I was a Sailor Moon fan. So
Love
these
Sailor Moon.
guys were like, hey, you want to come watch Power Rangers? And I was like, I doubt I'm gonna like it. And I have not left. I'm still here.
There you go.
It kind of basically is Sailor Moon. So
Yeah,
I mean,
it basically is.
Well, technically speaking, the boy version of Sailor Moon is Ronin Warriors.
Yeah.
We could watch some Running Warriors, or we could do some Knights of the Zodiac.
Yeah.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. It's funny like getting in the Sentai because it feels not even like Power Rangers Uncut, but like this weird like going to the farm to get the meal. It's like vibe where I'm like
straight from farm to plate.
Farm to table. I'm like, wow, everything is so fresh. Like,
So are you saying that Super Sentai is the farm and Power Rangers is McDonald's?
heck yes, that's exactly what it is.
Power Rangers did McDonald's toys.
Yeah, like because it's just taking what's the basic components of it and making it cheaper, which is like, and we love that. like I'm not saying I don't love McDonald's cheeseburgers. I'm just saying that like, you go get some Wagyu beef, like it's a totally different.
This needs to be this week's clip.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, with that, Steven, fantastic having you, man. It was awesome having you on here talking Power Rangers. Thank you.
I had a lot of fun, and I'd love to be back sometime. So let me know.
Well, we'll definitely have you. Plug your socials.
Well, right now, I have this like official Instagram that I try to start, but I'm just so busy. So right now, you can follow all of the action and updates for Power Rangers Nightmare on Elmstreet. And on my Instagram at only writer ever, and it's just one word.
Nice.
And it's a joke, and I'm not the only writer ever, but I know it's kind of clever. So
easy to remember.
There it is.
And eventually, we're gonna have more of a social media presence, but right now we're just too busy. unless we get some volunteer or something out there who wants to help us, which I wouldn't like push free work on people, but yeah, that's how it is. You can follow all this stuff at Only Writer Ever on Instagram, and you can read along with Power Rangers Nightmare on Elm Street series at www.mmprvsversusfk.com.
Okay.
And
Nice.
we'll post that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, Googling Power Rangers Nightmare on Elm Street first thing.
Yeah.
First thing that comes up.
Wade through like 10 pages and you'll get to it.
It's the third Google search. If you put Power Ranger NI, it's like as you're saying Nightmare on Elm Street, it's the third thing that comes up.
Oh, like the autofill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger too could probably work. I don't know. Well,
Yeah.
I have to like stick with that, but yeah, it's out there somewhere on Google if you want to check it out.
Sweet. Well,
Don't
thank you
confuse
again.
it with that other Power Ranger Freddy Krueger comic. That's not.
No.
It's completely different. That's not Steven. That's completely different.
Well, thank you, Steven. It was a pleasure.
Oh, it was an honor to speak to you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Yep.
Sweet. Well, that was fun. I guess we'll see what happens next week. We're almost to the movie, Mac.
Almost.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
There.
Almost there. Follow us on Instagram, social media. Go, read Nightmare on Elm Street Power Rangers, and we'll see you next week. It's not less phenomenal. It's more phenomenal.
phenomenal.
Yay. I was gonna try to think of like a Freddy joke and I couldn't.